Very often, information retrieval is first presented as what's called a bag of words model. The typical model here is that a document is an object containing a bag of words. By a bag, we mean that the words aren't in any particular order that we care about, but we do care about how often each word occurs. So it's a multi-set semantics for the word occurrences in the document. So that's it. A document is just a bag of words. Now, there's a couple details on that bag of words model that almost always are used when we're doing information retrieval. The first detail is called stop words, and these are words that we don't want to keep in the bag. So certain words are not helpful, and we're just going to ignore them. Real words like the in English are super prevalent, but also not really very useful or semantically interesting, and so we leave them out because they just noise up our problem. There are in encoded documents, like on the web in HTML, there's often also codes and things like that, like the H1 tag in HTML, which we'll also ignore because they're not terribly meaningful. Now, sometimes one person's stop word is another person's very important word, and so there are cases where these will be overruled, and you'll want to index these terms, but most of the time, stop words are applied in a fairly generic fashion. The second detail you have to know about is what's called stemming. And the idea here is that using language-specific rules, which might be different for every language, you can convert words to their basic roots, and then you can match different tenses or different plurals of the same word. For example, a word like surfing and a word like surfed are more or less the same word. They're based on the root surf. And so the term stemming comes from English, and in English language words, oftentimes what you're doing is dropping the end off a word, because that's where in English we usually do our conjugation of verbs or our plurals of nouns. And so this got to be called stemming. But in other languages, actually, conjugation and plurality are not necessarily at the ends of words. So this is different in every language. Every language is different, and so you have to have a stemming model for every language you do. That's kind of a drag, but it's sort of a solved problem by now in the world and not such a big deal. There are lots of open source libraries that have stemmers built in, like Python's Natural Language Toolkit or NLTK. So if you ever find yourself in need of a stemmer, just Google and you'll find one.